So I only have one big pot for cooking. So that day got away from me. It's kind of just been a bit of a scramble today, but I have my freezer stocked full of wholesome, good, nutrient-rich meals.
Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to share some simple and healthy freezer meals that you can prep ahead and easily pull from the freezer for a busy weeknight dinner. I've already pre-cooked all of the freezer meals ahead of time. That way it makes for a super simple and healthy dinner that you can just simply pull from the freezer, reheat, and have a delicious healthy dinner ready in less than 15 minutes, because I personally don't want to be doing any type of cook if I am doing any type of freezer prep. So first I need to clean this kitchen though, because I cannot focus if my kitchen is a disaster. So right now it needs a quick clean and some TLC before I started prepping everything.
Alright, so I just got back. Well, actually I didn't just get back from the grocery store. I actually ordered these online and I got it delivered to my door, which I absolutely love that convenience. It just feels so good, especially when I just don't have time to go to the grocery store all the time. As much as I love going there and browsing and everything, I find ordering online is the way to go for me. Plus, it actually saves me a lot of money, because when I go in the grocery store, I spend so much more than I really need to, because either my kids are sneaking stuff into the cart or I'm putting extra stuff in the cart. So I find ordering online is fabulous. I'm going to unpack all of these groceries. It's pretty much just all the essentials I needed for today's freezer prep. And then we're going to start on making probably the chili first. So the first recipe we're going to start with is just a crockpot chili. It is so simple. It's just like a dump and go kind of chili. I'm going to start this first because we're going to have this for dinner tonight. So I just want it to simmer on low for quite some time. So let's get that started. And then whatever is left over of it from dinner, we're going to just save and put it in the freezer for another night's dinner.
This chili recipe is from my father-in-law, and I made it vegetarian, but you can easily swap for turkey or beef for a heartier chili. But if I'm talking hormones, I'd personally opt for beef, especially if you're leading up to your period or while on your period, because beef is a beautiful meat to incorporate since it's rich in iron, and we are often depleted of iron, especially during menstruation. Then after your period, you could always use a lean meat like turkey or even ground chicken instead. But right now, I'm just rinsing the beans off to try and avoid a little extra bloating or gassiness after this chili. Then I'm adding 1 can of kidney beans, 1 can of black beans, 1 can of heinz baked beans in tomato sauce. Then I'm adding the vegetarian meat, or you could add the beef or the turkey at this point, and then 1 large can of tomato sauce and a dash of cinnamon, paprika, and chili powder. But for the vegetables, I've added corn and butternut squash. I often switch up to the veggies as I find it's an easy way to get the veggies into my kids, and if I'm being honest, my husband too. So this time I'm doing butternut squash and corn.
So I'm just gonna set this at low for anywhere between like 5 to 6 hours, I would say. And then on high, anywhere between probably like around 4-ish hours, but I'll leave the full recipe down below. Okay, so we did the chili recipe, so that's in the crockpot cooking. And I think the next one I'm going to do is the easy beef stroganoff. The recipe is from Taste Better from Scratch, so I'll link all the recipes down below. But I've never made this before, but it sounds so delicious and it's easy also to make. So that is a win in my books. We're going to start on this, and then we'll probably do the slow cooker sloppy joes after that. So joke's on me because I didn't realize I needed mushroom soup for this recipe, and I'm not about to make homemade mushroom soup today, so I think I'm going to run to the store and see if I can find a healthier alternative to a good tasty mushroom soup for this beef stroganoff. So I secured the goods, I found some soup. I didn't find mushroom soup, but I found cream of chicken, and that will do just fine in this beef stroganoff recipe. So we're going to go with that. And then I just got some extra coconut milk, and I got this really good, great smelling candle. So I think I'm going to light that for the rest of the little freezer meal prep.
I've yet to actually make beef stroganoff, but I feel like it's a classic, and from what I've read, it's a great dinner to prep ahead for a freezer meal. I've fully cooked everything, that way I can just easily grab it from the freezer, let it de-thaw, then the only thing I need to cook to add to it is the pasta, which is super simple in my opinion. So I started out by cooking some grass-fed ground beef, or you could swap that out for probably just some ground turkey as well. And then while the meat was cooking, I chopped up one small onion. I used just a yellow onion. And then I did 1 clove of minced garlic. Then I added it to the same pan as the meat until the onions and garlic was about a brownish color. And then a little side note about onions. I don't know about you, but I feel like I need to start wearing goggles when I'm cutting up onion because I am just waterworks over here. But have you ever heard that you can put a bottle of open essential oils and it's supposed to help? So I don't know if that's true or not. I would love to know if you have heard of that or if you have any suggestions because I'm just waterworks over here. But now I'm just moving on to slicing up some onions and adding it to the pan. I used about 1 container of mushrooms, and then I'm just mixing and combining everything.
I didn't realize actually how full this pan would end up getting, especially when I pour in the soup. So I'm going to switch the pans out and put it into this big pot. So if you do try this recipe, I would suggest to use a big pot to begin with. That way you don't create a big volcano on your stove top.
Now I'm adding around 1.5 cans of cream of chicken soup. The initial recipe called for 10.5 ounces of cream of mushroom soup, but I didn't have all the ingredients to make homemade mushroom soup, nor did I really want to. So the only soup I could find that sounded good for the freezer beef stroganoff was the cream of chicken, and it still turned out quite delicious. And then I added 1.5 cups of broth and a 1/3 cup of Greek yogurt, or you could use sour cream, but this is what I had on hand, and it was great. So I just let that all simmer on medium heat for a few minutes.
So I only have one big pot for cooking. So I'm going to just put all of this into this little pot here just until it cools down, and then I'll put it in the freezer because I need this pot for the next recipe. We just recently got an induction stove, and I just like the most minimal amount of pots. So right now I only have one big pot, but it seems to be working, except on days where I'm like doing prep work, it is a little bit tricky. So hopefully for you, you won't need to use 3 different pots for this meal. You'll only have to use the one, but this works for now. Okay, so I thought I was going to do the sloppy joes next, but I didn't realize I didn't have my other crock pot here. So it's kind of just been a bit of a scramble today, but we're going to get it done. So I think what I'm going to do is wait for that chili to cook and finish in the crock pot and either make it this evening or tomorrow. And then we're going to move on to the lentil soup because it sounds so delicious and hearty and perfect for this fall weather that's approaching, because today is like a very nice rainy day and it's really feeling like fall. So we are going to make lentil soup next because that just sounds very comforting.
Thinking about freezer meals, how fitting is it that I just grabbed these egg cups from the freezer last night, knowing today was going to be a busy one and I wouldn't have a ton of time to prep lunch. So I had a few of the egg cups, added some homemade coleslaw from last night's dinner to the side, and some orange tomatoes. Then for a little pick-me-up, I made myself a little mocktail where I muddled some mint, added some coconut water for electrolytes, which we all need on a cellular level because minerals fuel your cells and help produce energy, which we can all use that way.
All right, so I still have lots to do. I still have, let's see here. I still want to make lasagna, chicken noodle soup, slow cooker sloppy joes, and carrot ginger soup, and maybe even like a pasta sauce with carrots and onions in it. And then that way I have my freezer stocked full of just wholesome, good, nutrient-rich meals, especially through the fall when things just start picking up and it's a busy season. And you know it's a busy season for many people out there, especially moms. Right now, I need to take a break because I am starting to feel a little bit dizzy, and as a nutritionist and for anyone, when you're starting to feel dizzy, it's probably past the time that you should have ate. So I need to stop and have some lunch.
Talking about freezer meals, how fitting is it that I just grabbed these egg cups from the freezer last night, knowing today was going to be a busy one and I wouldn't have a ton of time to prep lunch. So I had a few of the egg cups, added some homemade coleslaw from last night's dinner to the side, and some orange tomatoes. Then for a little pick-me-up, I made myself a little mocktail where I muddled some mint, added some coconut water for electrolytes, which we all need on a cellular level because minerals fuel your cells and help produce energy, which we can all use that, right? Now I'm just checking on the lentil soup that was cooking and using an immersion blender, or you could totally just use a blender to the consistency you'd like. And then once the beef stroganoff is now cooled, I'm just putting it into a freezer safe container and popping it into the freezer.
So that day got away from me. It is the next day now, and I'm going to finish off cooking the rest of the freezer meals. Today we are going to get back to cooking the freezer meals, which I know is going to be really helpful in the next coming weeks. I'm going to start with the slow cooker sloppy joes next because my crock pot is available. We had some of that chili last night for dinner and it was absolutely delicious. It was lovely not to have to cook that night, especially when I was cooking through the day, and then having the chili already on the crock pot, and then I now still have leftovers. So I am going to put the rest of those in the freezer for another night's dinner. But we're going to do the slow cooker sloppy joes, and then probably the carrot ginger soup, and possibly the lasagna. So
I didn't realize how easy sloppy joes are. It was fun to try new recipes this day and batch cooking larger meals for the freezer because I often get in a rut with cooking, and one way I enjoy getting out of it is by trying new recipes. So with these sloppy joes, I just cooked a package of ground beef in the pan, then I added one large green diced pepper, half a yellow onion, some pepper and salt. Then I added 3 garlic cloves. The original recipe called for 5, which you could totally do, but I wasn't sure if my kids would be a fan of that much garlic, but maybe I'll try it for next time because it wasn't overpowering by no means. And then I just cooked all the veggies up until they were soft. Then I added everything into a crock pot, including 1.5 cups of ketchup, some water, chili powder, dry mustard, and I opted for a ketchup that's sweetened with dates instead of refined sugar, just to keep the refined sugar down a little bit, and it was still equally delicious.
So this recipe was a bit of a daring one because we've actually never ate sloppy joes. I've never given it to my kids, and I'm pretty sure my husband loves it, but I'm hoping that they do like it. Because if they don't, I think my husband will be having a lot of sloppy joes for lunch. Let's just cross our fingers and hope they do like it. But I'm going to put it on low. I think the recipe called for, let's see here. The recipe called, I think on low for 2 to 4 hours, or on high for 4. Yeah, so on high for 2 hours and low for 4 hours. So I'm just going to put it on low for 4 hours. Just so it can do like a nice, long, slow cook. Pretty cool is I save the scraps from whatever I'm making that are vegetables. So I'll do like the carrots, the onion, the peppers, the ginger that I've used for these meals, and I just saved it in a little bowl, and then I keep a little Ziploc bag in my freezer, and I just throw everything into there, and then I make it into a vegetable broth. So I put it on in a pot with some water, I let it simmer for a while. You can add whatever spices you want, and then once it's all tender and just soaked in and everything, then I strain it, and then it makes a beautiful vegetable broth. And really, the only other thing that you're going to do with this is pretty much throw it in the compost. So it does save you a little bit of money instead of having to buy vegetable broth all the time. Amazing, and it smells so delicious with the ginger in it and the onions, and it just smells so good. But I'm going to let it cool down, and then I'm probably going to put it in some freezer Ziploc bags, let it freeze in the freezer flat on a baking sheet, and then that way it's just easier to stack things up and save some room in my freezer. I wanted to chat a little bit about ginger too, because ginger, being a nutritionist specializing in women's hormone health, I am so passionate about the ingredients in food and just wholesome cooking, and that's why I'm trying to get back to like the roots of just cooking from scratch and just enjoying beautiful meals like this. But it can take time, so these meal prep days they just save me because obviously through the week you don't have a ton of time to be making everything from scratch. And of course I'm not making everything from scratch, as you guys can see. Like, I'm not making the ketchup from scratch, and maybe one day, but for right now it's just not in the cards. But speaking of ginger contains certain compounds in it, like antioxidants, anti-inflammatory compounds, which helps with inflammation, especially leading into this cold and flu season that's upon us. So this is a beautiful soup when it comes to that, and that's one of the reasons why I am prepping it, because I'm hoping that this will keep us a little bit healthier this season, or at least support our immune system nonetheless. Ginger contains flavonoids and phytoestrogens, which supports with our progesterone and estrogen ratio. And those are two sex hormones that are dominant in the women's cycle, so the menstrual cycle. We're dealing with anything like menopause, ovarian cysts, PCOS, just mood swings or tenderness or bloating throughout your cycle or throughout just day to day, then ginger is a beautiful nutrient that you can add into your weekly meals or daily meals, or more like probably weekly, because you're probably not going to consume ginger every single day, but it is a beautiful nutrient to add. Okay, so I just pulled out yesterday's lentil soup and then the carrot ginger soup. It has been cooled down. I have the sloppy joes cooking in the crock pot, so I'm going to just scoop this soup out and put it into some freezer bags and put it on a baking sheet and let it freeze in the fridge so that it stays nice and flat and easy to pack away in the freezer. So I'm probably going to divide the lentil soup into different portions, and then the carrot soup I'll probably just put all in one bag, because I think that will go by pretty quick for a dinner and maybe a little bit left over for lunch. But the lentil soup, I think it'll be mainly me that's eating it, so I'm going to divide it into portions.
So I just use some freezer bags instead of containers. I've learned from the past with avoiding containers in the freezer if I'm able to. One, because it saves money to use freezer bags, and you can simply wash them out and reuse if you prefer. And two, it saves so much room in the freezer versus using containers. I feel like it's a win-win. So I just put all the food and the soup into the bags, wrote the date and what it was on the freezer bag just with some permanent markers, and then I place them flat in the freezer and just letting the sloppy joes finish cooking, and then I'll just do the same with those.
Okay, so this is everything that I made between yesterday and today. It actually doesn't really look like a lot because it's all in the Ziplocs, and I still have the sloppy joes cooking in the crock pot, which I will end up putting those into some freezer bags as well and then putting them in the freezer. But I made some chili, some beef stroganoff, lots of lentil soup, carrot ginger soup, as well as the sloppy joes cooking. So it feels good. I definitely wanted to make a few more recipes like the lasagna, the pasta sauce, and prep some beef burgers. But you know what? I think I'm just going to call it a day, because I actually don't often do a lot of freezer meal prep. I'm kind of just starting it out again because this is a new busy season here in our life. So I want to see if this works for our family, just to have some quick on-the-go meals that I can just grab out of the freezer and then have something nourishing for that evening. But we will see how it goes. I feel like these are going to be a hit, but if it does work, I'm going to probably do another freezer meal prep, because if this does work, it's like, it's amazing. It would be so awesome to not have to cook some nights. So I'm going to pop these in the freezer, wait for the sloppy joes to finish cooking and pop that in the freezer. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I appreciate so much you watching and liking and commenting and all of the things. So I'm going to start doing some client work for the rest of the day, but I just wanted to say thank you for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful day ahead of you.